second TFT time today. Now, obviously, I do one of these every set, and I haven't done one yet for set numero 3. And, well, we're going to go over every character that's currently in this TFT set. That is including Xerath, which was added in one of the most recent patches. So, we've got a lot to discuss here, and we might as well start off with the first champion alphabetically in Ahri. Now, this champion is very good. In my opinion, it's B or C, maybe A. And that is my starting area for her, because obviously she ties into Star Guardians. She has a high burst damage ult that comes up quite quickly, plus it's true damage on its back. So I think I'm going to have to put her in B. There we go. Straight into B. Next up is Annie. Ooh, Annie I think is slightly worse, I guess, than Ashe. Although she does build into the space mech and has armor on her ultimate. She does have quite a good synergies with quite a few teams. Like, the current one of the best teams right now is Mech Infiltrator. And, well, I think that she would fit quite nicely into the same tier as Ahri. Because she's obviously got such good synergies, and also is Sorcerer as well, so that ultimate does do more damage the more Sorcerers on the field. Next up's Ashe, and well, in the first set, put Ashe quite high, I do believe. I put her in top of the tiers, and well, the ultimate has changed since then, and she is now a sniper. And that damage of the ultimate is very good. The ultimate does a lot of damage, and she also has synergies into Celestial, which can then go into Protector, so you can go Celestial Protectors, you go Xin, Rakan for your base Celestial Protector, then you can slide in Ashe and Jhin, and then a Lulu and say a Soraka, and you'll have Mystic alongside Celestial 4 and Sniper, which is quite strong to say the least. But I do believe she slightly out-edges the Ahri, because damage-wise she does more, she has a stun, and she is obviously slightly stronger. Aurelion Sol, he's like the Singe of set 3, and he does more damage than Singe, and you kind of do put the same sort of items on him. Always the more Omicron, you put the death caps onto him, stuff like that, and he honestly does do more than what Singe did in set 2, because he obviously has the tie-in to Rebel, where he gets a massive armor stack if he's put into the center of all of them, and that is something really strong. So I think he's going to be our first S champion, because he's actually very, very good for his use. Next up's Blitzcrank, and I love Blitzcrank in TFT because he has such good tie-in with Chrono. He can disrupt snipers with ease, because they usually go into corners, so he pulls them in because he goes to the furthest thing. He also has the ability to stun for quite a long time, as in he hooks them in, he then knocks them up into the air, which is very, very good. And honestly, I think he's going in the same tier as Ashe, because he obviously has that insta ult. The only downside to him, I honestly feel, is Brawler isn't too good in set 3, because there isn't too many good champions bar Cho'Gath that people realistically all use. Like, Vi's one other user who goes into Cybernetics team comps, but it's still quite a weak tier, so I actually think he might go down a bit to C. Next up is probably one of my favourite champions to carry early game, because she's pretty broke, especially with Chrono. It's Caitlyn, and the reason I say she's broken early game is that ultimate. You insta-kill anything with that ult, with all the damage that you've already done to a target, if you build, say, a Vanguard frontline like a Poppy and Leona for early game, Caitlyn's just going to get an ult off and kill off something that's probably full health. So she goes straight up here into A at least, maybe higher. Next up's Cho, and well, I kind of have to slide him into D or C, because Void's not something you see too much of realistically. Void's okay set of buffs, but Cho's one of them champs that you do see quite a bit actually, so I think he goes in C. He's one of them champs that people just pick up because of that ultimate that's very, very good, it's very strong. But Void and Brawler as a combo isn't realistically seen that much, and considering Rek'Sai isn't even in this set, there's no built-in combo with Void to actually be made. Next up we have Darius. Darius is a good champion overall. The Space Pirate and the Mana Reaver is very, very good in terms of traits that you can have, and the Execute ult works very well. It's obviously like Volley Barrel. It's very, very strong, and people build death caps and stuff onto him, so that ultimate does a lot of damage, and I think he goes into the exact same tier as Caitlyn. Like, he's very strong, he's got a lot of health, he's bulky, and can obviously survive a lot of attacks and get off maybe 2 ultimates in a round without obviously killing one. Then he's getting more ultimates off, don't forget. And yeah, he goes into there. I'm moving you down to there because I know who you are. You don't need to be said yet. And actually I'm putting you there. Echo's next. Echo I like a lot, obviously with the cybernetics trait. It's very easy for him to do a lot of damage with that ultimate of his. Like, you can stick a GA onto him so that you're guaranteeing the ult. And I think he goes into B or A. He's not the best in terms of the fact that he is an infiltrator, but he doesn't realistically do too much if he gets instantly hit up. Like, that's the issue with infiltrators. If they immediately get targeted, they're kind of screwed. So you kind of do need a GA onto him. And he hasn't got that much health. So he goes into there. Next is a champ I'm immediately putting into A. Ezreal is very, very good. Obviously that ultimate is very, very strong. It does a lot of damage, as well as the fact that it's a mini Mana Reaver, in the sense that it reduces so much mana off of a champion, and it's AoE, so a lot of champions are going to lose a lot of mana. So it's very strong into Star Guardian comps, teams that obviously do rely on mana quite heavily. Even Vanguards are very, very weak against Ezreal because he just stops them from getting their protective ults off, like Leona being able to use her protective thing, like Poppy throwing her Star Shard at a target. Yeah, it's very, very good in that effect. Plus he's Chrono, so that attack speed just getting buffed every single time is very, very strong. And what you're going to tell here is I'm going to probably put all of the Chronos quite highly ranked. Next up's Fiora, and well, Fiora is a good early game champion and does succeed quite nicely in mid game because of that stun and the riposte in her ultimate. I think she still has to go into B, because the reason is she does fall off quite quickly into late game because the damage charts just get higher and higher. She can't block when she's dead, so you kind of have to put her quite low because she doesn't realistically get a chance to use the ult late game. Next up's Fizz, and well, I like Fizz because he does have a very big damaging ult, and he also is a mech pilot. I still think he can do quite a lot of damage as an infiltrator on his own base, so he goes into A because he obviously is very, very useful in terms of his connections. Next up's GP. S. And you're probably going to see me do this again with MF. It's going straight into S. Because of his ultimate being so configurable, and the fact that he can, obviously, if you build quite a few items onto him that give him a bit more health, that ultimate comes out quite nicely. He's very, very strong. Plus, he's usually the last space pirate you pick up, which is great, because then you start getting items. And if you get him early, yeah, you realise that the power he has is very, very strong and can actually carry you through a game with ease. Next up's his counterpart in Graves, and Graves is a very good utility champion, and his utility is sort of the same tier as Blitzcrank, realistically, because he stops attacks coming through. It's a very, very strong ability, and he can be combined well with another champion we'll discuss in a bit in terms of his usability, which is great. Next up's Aurelia. Aurelia is one of them strong carries. She's going into A, and the reason she goes into A is her ultimate. It's Darius level ultimate, in a sense that it's a lower cost than Darius's ult, and it resets when you get a kill with it, and she then dives onto the backline with it, which is very, very strong, because then you're diving onto squishies usually, meaning that ultimate's going to reset even more. And if you put a Spear of Sojourn onto her, it's very, very broke. Plus, I haven't tried it yet, and it's something that I really want to try. Star Guardian Aurelia. If you know how Star Guardians work, they gain mana for every single use of their abilities, and that's every Star Guardian gives mana to another Star Guardian. And yeah, you realise Aurelia as a Star Guardian would be quite broken. So, moving on from I's, we go to J's, and we start off with Jarvan. Jarvan is a utility champion more than anything. He creates attack speed, which obviously in early game you can pair him with Azaya, you can pair him with Xin Zhao and Rakan's and Protector, but he is probably the weakest of the 4 protectors. And if you go in Darkstar, he's kind of one of them ones that you may drop out, because he doesn't realistically do too much in the late game. So I think he's going to be our first D character, because he does get kind of trounced late game. Next up's Jace, and I like Jace. He's a good champion. He goes into B. Obviously he's a space pirate and Vanguard, which is actually one of them traits that you wouldn't expect to be too good, and well, it is very good. Obviously, if you can put another Vanguard alongside him, like a Wukong maybe, he's gonna actually do quite a lot, and he does a lot of damage with that ultimate. It's like, you can underestimate it realistically, because it does a lot of damage to quite a few targets when he brings the hammer down and slams it into people's faces. It's very, very strong, and I like it. It's same sort of tier as an Ariel, so he goes into B. Next up's Jhin. He's the strongest sniper by far, and Darkstar with a sniper, he's going to be sat at the back. He's probably guaranteed at least 2 Darkstars if there's no infiltrators going off, and it essentially means he's going to be firing in massive crits and doing a lot of damage. And if you put, say, an IE onto him, you put a death cap onto him, that damage just goes up tenfold. And Deathblade's one of the only items I would just think would be great on Jhin, Darius as well, and even Aurelia. It's one of them items you don't realistically see too much, but it works very well on Jhin. Next up's Jinx, and well, as a rebel, she's quite strong, because she can be one of your carries, but with Aurelion as the main rebel carry, she realistically does fall off quite a bit in terms of her set 1 Hextech buff. Hextech was the reason you'd pick Jinx. It was very, very strong. However, it's set 3. Jinx as a rebel and a blaster, she's probably one of the weaker blasters, because unless you've got Graves, then he's the weakest, but Jinx is the other one you switch out realistically, because you keep Ezreal for the Mana Reaver. Lucian's just too hard to hit usually, and will survive probably the longest, and MF's just MF. So she's kind of interchangeable with Graves, and in set 3 I don't think that ultimate of hers does as much anymore as what she was in set 1. So she goes into C. Next up's Kai'Sa, and Kai'Sa... I like Kai'Sa. She's her set 1 incarnation, but with a better ult, I feel. Because in set 1 that ultimate was good. It gave her attack speed and stuff, but in set 3 you can build Chrono with her. You can build mechs, so she isn't getting hit up easily. I think she goes into B because of the usability of her is quite high, and is very, very strong for the early game. Karma now, I kind of have to put her low, because I don't realistically use her in Darkstar comps, because she does kind of get overlooked, because there's other combos in Darkstar that people go for, because it's slightly stronger. And yes, you could say Darkstar Celestial should be a key piece in that, because she can link a Mystic with Lulu, but she isn't too good in terms of the fact that she kind of gets trounced, and realistically she doesn't do too much damage. Her shield gets bursted out quite quickly most of the time, and honestly isn't too good. Next up's Kassadin. I'm unsure about this guy. I like him. He's got a great concept, and I think he's either B or C, possibly A. And I think we might have to put him in A. And the reason I'm putting him in A is obviously Mana Reaver, very, very strong. And also Celestial, very, very strong. His ultimate is where it's at though. And it's such a good combo ultimate. He does a lot of damage with the ult, and he has a sword breaker effect. So in essence, you don't need to put a sword breaker item onto him, so you free up basically an item slot. And his ultimate does it to multiple targets, and it's a very quick charging ult. Yeah, he goes into A, thank you, and it makes a team fight pretty easy for you if you build him and Lulu in a team comp, because it means that not many attacks are going to come through if them two are in a combo together. Next up's our next S tier champ. It's a very good champion that you've seen me use quite a lot in my cybernetics comps. It's Kayle. And Kayle is great because she's got a low costing ult, the ultimate lasts permanently in a round, and she does a lot of damage with it. You give her a Rage Blade, you don't even need to give her a GA to keep her alive. She does a wombo amounts of damage. You can even give her lifesteal and it's even more broken, by the way. And it's a great tool. She's very, very strong. She can carry you through an entire game if you get her early. Next up is probably one of them other sort of champions that is a transitional champ. He's one of them that you put items on, sell him to put onto an Echo, put onto a Fizz, put onto a, not even a Kai'Sa, a Shaco, that's it. You just switch him out most of the time, so he kind of has to go into D, realistically. It is Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix is a Void champion. Obviously there, I don't like Voids, you can tell. And he's also Infiltrator, which is his only benefit. He does get you Infiltrators, or all 4 Infiltrators quite easily, but he is the one of the ones that you sell off for an Echo or a higher costing one that you haven't got yet. And he does do a lot of damage early game. He's quite useful early. But early game is his only use. So he gets sold into D for me, realistically. And you're going to see here, I'm probably not going to chuck much into ENF. Because I still find use in certain champions throughout the entirety of the game. And I don't think there's any that are realistically trash. Next up's Leona. And I honestly think she's probably one of the better Vanguards. She's definitely a C tier, honestly. And the reason she's going into C is because she's got a good ultimate. She's got the same ult from set 2 where she just makes herself very hard to kill, and that is very, very strong. In terms of the fact that she allows your backline to do a lot of work. Granted, it does fall off late game because she obviously won't get that ultimate off before getting bursted out most of the time. So she does have great early game strength, and I honestly feel she does a lot of work for early game as well as mid game, carrying you through if you get Vanguard alongside her. As for the next champion, which is Lucian, I do believe. Lucian, I think, is a lot better than Jinx. He's probably a B tier champion realistically. And the reason he's in B is because he's very hard to kill. He does a lot of damage with the blaster, which is a great thing, which is essentially Gunslinger if you don't understand that. But blaster is a great thing for him to have because he just dashes around, then he fires 2 extra shots quite quickly. He then dashes around again, fires an extra shot, and then the blaster shot. It's quite nice for him to be this good. And he's obviously very elusive, as I've said, and you want an elusive backliner that's hard to kill. It means that he's going to probably do a lot of damage. And that's why he's got to go into B, at least. And in fact, I think he might just slide into A. He's probably the same usability as an Ezreal, if you look at my cybernetics usage. Next up's Lulu. And Lulu, I've started using a bit more recently. Because you wouldn't think her ultimate's too good as a Mystic if you think about the other Mystics in the set. You've got Soraka, AoE heal, very, very good. Karma puts a shield onto nearby ally, which is meh, realistically. Then you've got Sona, who heals a lot for nearby targets, or 2 nearby targets. And it's a cleanse. Yeah, you realise that she's the most unique because she, instead of protecting the team, attacks the enemies in a sense that she whimsies them, makes them bounce a bit, and for me, her ultimate isn't the best. Because she's a 5-cost champion, you have to realise that. I think she goes here into C. No, she doesn't. She goes into D for me. Because she's Celestial, which is a good thing. Mystic, which is a good thing. You can get in some tie-ins there. That's her good saving grace. But her ultimate, she whimsies up a target, polymorphing them. But here's the annoying thing. If your melee champions are hitting it, the opposition champs bounce around and move, making it hard for your champions to auto-attack them. And that is an annoying thing to deal with. Yes, it does make it so that they're not being attacked, but you're not doing that many attacks into them. And considering you've saved up 5 coins to maybe get a Lulu, she isn't the best in terms of her usage. Next up's Lux. She has to go into A. Her ultimate's great. It's basically a straight line of stun. It's very, very strong. With Darkstar as well, it's even stronger, and considering the times you can do with Darkstar, with other Darkstar champions, I'd say, like Xerath, you get a sorcery buff with her. That ult does a lot of damage, and it stuns up a lot of targets, usually, if you put her in the corner. Next up's Malphite, and I don't realistically rate Malphite, because he isn't too good in my eyes. And you're probably wondering why I say that. Well, I don't rate him too much. Yes, he does have a massive shield, but you've already seen what I think about shield champions. He's not too good. And I think he's actually going to be our first E-champ. Like, Rebel, you'd probably keep him because he's obviously one of your frontliners, but you still get Yasuo and Yi for frontline, and you can obviously tie in other buffs to the team. But I don't rate him. He's also a brawler, which, yeah, you can go for more health on him, but he isn't too good in terms of damage. He doesn't have an actual ultimate, because his ult basically is he gets a massive shield at the start of round that just gets penetrated quite quickly, and he ain't too good for me. Next up's Yi. Yi is a great champ. If you look at a Blade Master comp, he is one of your carries alongside Aurelia. He goes into A. He has a great ultimate. He gets healing from it. He does true damage with his blade. It's very, very strong. You put attack speed onto him and he's insane. So you go Chrono alongside it. It's very, very good. I love the champ. He's going high. Next up's MF. As I said before, similar to GP, in a sense that she's got the ability to have a very, very powerful ult. She can shield herself, which helps against infiltrators. She has the ability to attack a mass area with that ult as well. And the fact that you can put death cap on it and does a lot more damage. And the tie-in she has to Blaster, which is great, obviously hitting multiple targets as well, with a very, very powerful AoE ult is great. And then you have the tie-in to Kayle, which is Valkyrie. And I didn't discuss this when discussing Kayle. The damage that can be created from Valkyrie is huge, and that ultimate of hers just amplifies, which is why Kayle's in S and why MF has to join her, similarly to why I've got Kai'Sa quite high in B. Next up, I do believe, is Mordekaiser, and Mordekaiser is a champ that I think's okay. He's definitely a C tier champ. I don't think he's the best Vanguard. He's probably on the weaker side. I think he's like third best, maybe, behind Poppy or Leona. I can't realistically tell, but he has to go there. His ultimate's good in the sense that he does get a shield and AoE damage, which is great. Obviously, the tie into Darkstar, meaning he's probably the first to die, because he's going to be your frontline tank. But it kind of defeats the object of dying Darkstar champs, if you get what I mean. But you get what he's used to protect the champs as long as possible before they start bowling ball effect, domino effect, that is the best way, falling down and dying, giving more damage to the rest of them. So yeah, you kind of have to put him in C, because he does have good usability for being the strong frontliner and being slightly better than Jarvan. Next up's Neeko, and Neeko I like. I think she's a B tier champ. She's Protector and Star Guardian as well. She's quite cheap as well. She is the most expensive Protector, but she's quite cheap in terms of the fact that she's only 3 cost. She's a great champ if you think about Star Guardians, because she has a stun. And Star Guardians, if you're going full 6 Star Guardians, who has a stun bar Neeko? Poppy doesn't. Zoe does. That's the only other one. That's your exception. And so when you just start chaining ults going off and off, Neeko's ult is one of them good ones that you want chaining off, so that you're protecting your team and it stops anyone from ulting your champs while they're going into mass burst spell effect. So Neeko goes quite high. Next up's Poppy. Well, Poppy I think is slightly better than Leona, so I'm actually going to do that. And the reason being is Poppy has such a good time with Star Guardian, in the fact that you could technically make her your Star Guardian carry. And what I mean by that is she's very, very bulky. You put mana items onto her, like a Chalice, like a Spirit Sojourn, and she does have quite a low cost ult. And that is very, very good to note, because it means that she's going to be using that ult quite a lot. And Star Guardians obviously like a lot of ults, so yeah, that is a good reason why she'd be better than Leona. She isn't as good as Nico in terms of the fact that she can also be bursted out quite quick sometimes. But it's still a better champ than Leona and Mordekaiser as a Vanguard. Next up's Rakan, and Rakan's gotta go into A. He's probably the best protector, alongside Nico, I'd say, of the base protectors. I know you can spatula a protector together, shh. But he goes into there, and the reason being is, well, let's just say he has a very, very strong ultimate that can charge quite quickly. He's also a range protector, meaning he can obviously jump in to wherever he likes. He also doesn't have to be instantly attacked first, and you can put some protective items on him, and he still works as a tank. So that is a great thing about Rakan. Plus he has a good ult and good traits because he's also a celestial champion. So whenever he ults, more healing, and that means he's going to stay alive longer, and as a protector you want to live longer, and when you're getting that massive shield when you ult is great. So he goes high. Next up's Rumble. I think he has to go here. Same tier as Fizz. Because he is a good champion in terms of the fact that he provides the mecha stun. If you build a Ziggs or a GP, that is, as well. And he also has the ability to burn champions with grievous wounds. So that is a great effect to note about Rumble. Is his ult applies grievous wounds, and when you've got grievous wounds coming out, no healing, so that counters Celestial quite heavily, it counters Soraka, it counters Sona, it counters Yi, it counters champs that have built-in heals into their kit. You realise it's very, very strong, and he's good early game on his own without the other mech pilots, so he's very, very strong in that case. The only issue is obviously Demolitionist is kind of a throwaway trait, I guess the best way to put it, because he obviously does need a Ziggs or a GP alongside him to benefit from it. But it's still a good champion to say the least, and actually does a lot of work for you if he's your frontliner. Next up is Shaco. I do believe this guy has to go here. And the reason he goes up into S is because he's probably the best infiltrator. Hands down. Best infiltrator. He does the most damage if you build him correctly. He does the most useful things in taking out backlines quickly, which is why you technically use him in infiltrator comps, in a sense that his ultimate is charged quick, he does a lot of damage, and especially with Darkstar, he's gonna do a lot of work if you have a strong front line. And yeah, very, very good champion. Next up's another utility champion. I kind of have to say is the best of the utilities. Better than Blitz, better than Cho, better than Graves. In Shen. Shen's ult, if you don't know what it does, in essence it's an AoE for your allies, protection from auto attacks, and it's on the same tier as Kassadin in terms of ults. So you kind of have to go into B. And I did put Kassadin into A, but it's slightly worse, I guess, because it obviously means it's only protecting about 3 targets with his ult, whereas Kassadin's hits a lot of enemies, like maybe 6 if possible. But you see the usage of Shen is very, very strong in team comps into late game, plus the tie-in with Blademaster and Chrono. He's such a good pivot champion for Cybernetics, because you can obviously get Blademaster early with Fiora and Aurelia and Kayle. If you don't have one of them, then you just slide into Shen. You also build in an Ezreal, there's Chrono, boom, that attack speed's going out the roof while you look for a Wukong, while you look for your Blademaster, and yeah, you've got a very, very strong team comp to say the least. Next up, Sona and Soraka. I kind of have to cover these two together, and they're good at utility. Sona ult is very, very strong. I put Yi in A, Sona has to go below him. They combine well together because of a Rebel, and Sona has such a good heal and cleanse effect That is something that you don't see in TFT because people don't really build trap cores or quicksilver, sorry, because it's not realistically useful in the mode because Sona is a prevalent champion, to say the least, because of the Mystic tie-in as well. The Star Guardian comps, the Sorcerer comps just get ruined by a Sona who just is able to heal and protect without realistically doing much, because that ultimate is quite quickly charged. If you put a Chalice on her as well and make her a Star Guardian, it's even funner. She's very, very good. And speaking of Star Guardian Mystic champions, Soraka has to go alongside her. Sona only hits a couple of targets. That's why she's only B. But she does have the cleanse. Soraka hits all champions on your team, but doesn't have the cleanse. But it's still a big ult that heals a lot. So she might actually out-edge the Sona into A, which would make sense to you actually realistically. And she actually is a very, very good champion in terms of the fact that she has that amazing heal. You can build a Spirit Sojourn onto her, that heal comes out quicker. Star Guardian buff, that ult comes out even quicker than that. Yikes, she's a very, very good champion. And speaking of good champions, that has to go into AS. Syndra, main carry of Star Guardians realistically. That ultimate obviously does more damage over time in a battle, and considering you're wanting to throw out more and more ults, Syndra has to go in S because it does a lot. She kills things quickly, with ease, and she's very, very powerful in terms of the fact that she can be just put in a clump of champions and she can't be killed. So yeah, Syndra has to go into S. She's very, very good. Next up's Thresh. Again, I feel has to be an S tier. And the reason being is, firstly, his traits. Chrono, great trait, attack speed over in time, 4 seconds every turn. Mana Reaver as well, increasing the mana cost of enemy champions using their abilities, even stronger. Obviously, it's the Hextech effect. It's very, very great. And obviously, I love Hextech if you remember my set 1 sort of tier list. And Thresh's ult is why he's so good. He brings on the cheekiness into a team comp, because you can just put him on the board, then you just start stacking 5-cost champs. What can people do? You bring on the strongest champions in the game to kill off the opposition. You put an Aurelion Soul level 2 on your bench. You put on an Echo level 2 on the bench. You put a Jhin on the bench, for Christ's sake. And you build Darkstar. He's just going to have a mass amount of Darkstar damage, isn't he? So that's why you realistically put him there into the team comp. It's very, very good. TF. Now, TF is the weakest Chrono champ, I feel. And I think he has to go into D. Because, yes, he is Sorcerer, but Sorcery, you don't realistically need Chrono. And he doesn't do too much in the Chrono comps because he's sold off because he didn't need it for the 6 Chronos you need. And people tend to keep the Caitlyn because she's got a very powerful ult in terms of an execute. TF though is mediocre at best. He's only realistically good early game for sorcery buff with a Zoe or an Ahri or a low cost sorcerer if you don't have one. But there's so many low cost sorcerers that it's kind of redundant to have him in a team comp. Next up's Vel'Koz. Probably the best Void champion in the game. He's either an A or an S tier in my mind. That ultimate, the Mega Death Ray, does a lot of damage. It's very, very strong. And he obviously, you can put him similar style to Syndra in a clump of champions and he can just disintegrate everything in his view. It's very easy for him to do a lot of work if he's putting Star Guardians as well. So yeah, he kind of has to go into A. Okay, so next up we have Vi. Vi has to be a very nice champion and has to go into B. And the reason being is her ult. She's got good times with Cybernetic, which is great, meaning more damage and health. So she's going to survive a lot as a frontliner, and that's a big thing to point out, is she's a frontliner. Brawler obviously adds more health, so that's an sort of tie-in. So she's probably one of the best brawlers because she gets more health from cybernetic, I guess. But here's the big kicker with her. The ultimate does a lot of damage, and it attacks the furthest thing away from her. So she goes straight for the backline usually, or an infiltrator. That is great, meaning that she's protecting your backline or killing off the enemy backline. However, and this is a big however, because she's a frontliner, she's usually going to be hit up first. And because she's being hit up first, she might not even make it to her destination with that ult. Because she's still targetable, she's still going to take damage, and is more than likely going to die, possibly, before hitting anyone with that ultimate. Next up's Wukong, probably the best Chrono Vanguard in the game, because he's the only Chrono Vanguard. He's definitely an A tier. Reason being is his ultimate stuns everyone. He literally goes from target to target, roaming around, stunning them up, and hitting them. And what's better is when he stops, if because the opposition have been stunned up, they have to retarget, meaning a Vanguard in Wukong's going to be tanking damage against the backliners, meaning he's doing his job. He's disrupted a fight, he makes it easier for your champs to do a lot of work. Plus, because he's stunning them all up, that chrono buff is going to tick up maybe 2 or 3 times, giving you more and more attack speed, making this an even bigger chance of you winning. And so yeah, he has to go into A, because he's very, very strong. Next up, Xayah. And we haven't discussed Xayah properly, and we need to discuss her with some sense, I guess is the better way to put it. She's very strong early. She has to be at least B. In fact, I'm chucking her in B. She has good tie-ins because she's a Blade Master. You can tie her into Chrono with ease, with her ultimate as well. And the reason being is she gets an insane amount of attack speed with that ultimate. And if you give her a Rage Blade, you start to notice the major buff that it has with her. And she can obviously heal up with Celestial with quite quickness. Honestly, she gets a lot of health back. And she's very, very good at it. She's very hard to deal with as a carry. And it's very, very fun to actually use a Xayah in a team comp as a whole. If you go that route, obviously. Next up's the newest champion that we've got to cover, Xerath. And well, I think, honestly, he's on the same tier as Jhin. And the reason being is he's your Dark Star carry alongside Jhin, and he has good times with Lux. You've got 2 Dark Star sorcerers, so you get a free sorcery buff with him. You get Dark Star buff if you have another Dark Star champion alongside them 2. And his ultimate is so strong, it has a built-in stun, it hits all the targets nearly, it does a lot of damage. He's very, very good at his job. Honestly, I love the champ. He's very, very great. And yeah, he's a good champion overall, and he should be an S. Next up is Xin Zhao. And well, I haven't talked about Xin Zhao yet, but he kind of has to be in the same tier as Rakan. Reason being, he's the same traits as Rakan, Celestial, and Protector. He has a stun, which is single target, but he gets an insane amount of health back with that ultimate of his, because of Celestial buff that they gain. He's more of the healing, survive longer frontliner, whereas Rakan's the stand behind the Xin, then jump in, take a bit of damage, jump out to another target, and just be a nuisance. Whereas Xin's the hard engage, kill, heavy frontliner. And as such, they combo quite nicely together as a whole. Next up's Yas. I'm going to keep saying it next up, it annoys most people, but I don't care. So, we've got now Yasuo. Yasuo hasn't changed much since set 2, where he was a Cloud Blade Master. In this set, he's a Rebel Blade Master. And the big difference is he now has a shield when he ults. And that does make him slightly better than his set 2. I'm not putting him in E, god no. I think he has to go into B. He's not as good as Yi. Yi's very, very strong. But Yasuo does do one of them things that you want in a champion, in threaten the backline with its ult. He just last breaths onto the backline, does a lot of damage. If you put on an on-hit set onto him, so a Hand of Justice, Bloodthirster, items like that, IE as well, he's going to probably kill off a target if you play it correctly. Now we've got Ziggs. Ziggs is an okay champion. Rebel Demolitionist, but he kind of has to go into D. Yes, he does have a stun if he's Demolitionist, obviously, and his ult does do quite a bit of damage, but he's sort of the same thing Ziggs is. A burst champion that can be replaced, and honestly quite redundant in terms of the fact that he does kind of get killed quite easily and is not seen too much into late games. Next up, Zoe has to go into C. She's a similar tier to Poppy in terms of the fact that she can be your catalyst for a Star Guardian comp. With the Sleepy Trouble bubble as well early game, that stun is huge. It means that you're not going to be obviously attacking with that champion, and she does a lot of work. However, she can't be as good as Nico or Ahri, because Nico obviously stuns multiple targets, whereas Zoe's only hits one, and Zoe obviously has a tie-in to Ahri, which I guess is a good thing, but that's about it. She's still a C tier because she doesn't realistically do much. And our last thing to cover, which I guess we kind of have to cover, it's ZZ Rot, I guess. ZZ Rot Portal has to be covered. And well, ZZ Rot is a very nice thing. And you call it a champion because it obviously is a 3000, 2000 or 1000 health being on a field, depending on your start rating of a champion. And I love this item. It has to be on the same tier as Fizz and Rumble on A, because it ties so well into the Mech Infiltrator comp, because you put that onto a Rumble, if you get him to level 2, when the Mech dies, that's a free target. Like, you have an aggro dropping target in the ZZ Rot come out of the Mech, and yeah, you kind of have to deal with that before the Fizz, the Rumble and the Annie get targeted. And as such, when the Rumble dies again, another one comes out. Yeah, you start to see the usage there. Very, very strong. But yeah, that is my tier list for TFT patch 10.8, 10.7, whatever we're on right now. Xerath patch, I guess, of TFT set 3. If you enjoyed this, leave a like down below, subscribe if you're new if you want to, and I will see you guys later. Peace out.